What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Horrifying Ghost Stories. In today's video, we are looking at the terrifying true story of the Snedeker Family Haunting. This one personally terrified me, so I hope you enjoy it too. Let's get into the video. In 1968, in America, a married couple called Helen and Fred Snedeker decided to move into their new home with their 3 daughters. The house was a large Victorian mansion with many rooms. It was beautiful from the outside, and they were excited to start their new life there. However, little did they know that the house had a dark secret behind its beautiful exterior walls. A few days after moving into their new home, strange things started happening. For example, doors would randomly slam shut, objects would fall off shelves, and then they would hear footsteps above them when no one was there. At first, they thought these events were just part of living in an old house, but this was not the case. The hauntings continued night after night, getting more intense. One night, when Helen was awoken in the middle of the night by her daughter screaming, she went to go check up on her. As she walked past her son's bedroom door, she heard what sounded like a scream. Startled, Helen ran down the hallway towards her son's room, which was at the end of the corridor. As she got closer to his door, the noise became louder. By the time Helen had reached her son's bedroom, the noise had become deafening. Helen recalled hearing a sound like a woman being strangled. She then felt a cold breeze walk over her, and she witnessed her son's bed start shaking violently. Helen stood there paralyzed in fear until the shaking stopped and everything went silent. Helen went to go check on her son after this terrifying event, but thankfully, he was still asleep. Throughout that year, Helen experienced many scary incidents. For example, one day when she was alone in the house, she saw a white figure standing at the end of the hallway, and when she tried to approach it, it slowly vanished into thin air. She also said that sometimes she would feel a cold spot in certain rooms, and sometimes she would even see the shadow of a woman holding a baby standing at the foot of her bed. Throughout all of this, Helen tried to remain strong for her children, but eventually she could not take the haunting anymore. So she moved out of the house and left it empty. A few months later, a new family moved into the house. Just as Helen had hoped, nothing else would happen there. But again, this was not the case. The new family started experiencing the same exact paranormal activity Helen had been through. They were now starting to realize that their house was haunted. It didn't take long for the ghost to make itself known to the new residents. One day, the family was having dinner when they heard chains dragging metal moans. Then, suddenly a rocking chair in the corner of the room began to rock by itself. They watched in amazement as the chair rocked back and forth, slowly building up speed until it was flying around the room. The family froze in fear as the chair came hurtling towards them. They all screamed and ran out of the room. No one dared to go back in to see if the chair had stopped. Another day, one of the children was playing in his room when he noticed his toy train set begin to move by itself. He watched in shock as his trains began racing around the track. He quickly ran to his parents and told them what he had seen. They didn't believe him and thought he was just making it up. However, when they went to go check on him, they saw the train set moving by itself. After this, the father decided to investigate further. He wanted to find out if there really were ghosts in his house. Using a recorder, he walked around the house listening for any strange noises. Little did he know, this would change everything. While recording, he heard a young girl crying. He quickly looked around the room to try and find her, but there was no one there. He continued recording, and then he heard what sounded like a woman talking in a foreign language. He continued to investigate, and he found that wherever he went, the ghost seemed to follow him. Sometimes he would hear chains dragging or footsteps behind him. He would then turn around, but there would be no one there. He then decided to research the history of his house. He wanted to see if anyone had ever died there. After some digging, he discovered that the original owner of the house had died inside. Her name was Margaret Jagger. She had lived in the house with her 2 daughters and her son-in-law. One day, her 2 daughters had gotten into an argument. Things had escalated so far that one of the daughters had grabbed a metal poker and beat the other one to death. The daughter then tried to cover up the murder by hiding her body in the basement. To this day, no one knows what the argument was about, but some say it was over a man. He then realized that the ghost he had been hearing was most likely the daughter who had been murdered. He also believed that the other ghost was the mother because she was the only other woman who had died in the house. The third ghost, he believed, was the little girl who had witnessed the murder. The family tried to perform an exorcism, but it didn't work. They eventually sold the house in hopes that their problems would disappear. But this was not the case. The new owners soon realized that the ghosts had followed them. One of the new owners was researching the history of the home when she heard what sounded like a woman screaming in pain. She then felt something brush against her leg, and when she turned around, she saw the apparition of a woman holding a baby. She dropped to her knees and pleaded with the ghost to leave her alone. The ghost then stared at her for a moment before slowly fading away. One day, a young boy was playing in the attic when he heard what sounded like chains dragging. He quickly ran downstairs and told his mother what he had heard. She didn't believe him, thinking he was just making it up. However, when she went to go check on him, she heard the exact same noise. She then decided to contact a priest. She wanted him to come and bless the house. While he was walking around the house, he suddenly became very pale. He told the woman that her house was extremely haunted and that she should sell it immediately. She listened and put the house up for sale. But before she did, she wanted to get one last picture of the house. She stood on the front porch and took a picture. When she developed the photo, she saw a little girl staring back at her. She was standing next to a rocking chair. This was strange because the family had gotten rid of the chair before they left. Years went by, and the house was still standing. People would drive by and report seeing the apparition of a woman standing in one of the upstairs windows. Some people were even brave enough to go up to the window and knock on it. But when they did, they would hear chains dragging, and then the apparition would vanish. To this day, no one has been brave enough to enter the house. It remains abandoned and haunted. And that is the terrifying story of the Snedeker family haunting. I really hope you enjoyed that story. If you did, please leave a like. Also, if you want to see more short videos from me, then check out my second channel. Other than that, I'll see you guys in the next one.